So as you heard, I'm Patina. I have been working primarily in the school since 2011, but also home health, where I could go in and see, kiddos anywhere from age 1 to aging out about 22 in the schools, with just a variety of special needs. I also have the privilege of serving. Here, let me show you my slides. Here we go. That's just my website. These are my little crazy people. Nora is 4 now, and Paisley is 2, and we're 13 weeks along with number 3, so we'll see what girl or boy. So I also have the privilege of serving in my church's special needs ministry, and that's where I got to meet Kelsey Allen. Her mom, Emmy Lou, is in the house. Hey, Emmy Lou. And she first introduced me to 15 Dupe Q. I'm sure I'd had so many kiddos in my classes. When in the school settings, I see mostly groups, so I'll see a full classroom of kids with special needs, many of which I don't know all of their unique diagnoses. So it was great to learn more from her about that. And Kelsey is easily identifiable as just this young lady that's full of life and joy and energy, and she could just light up a room with her little smile. And I'm just so grateful that God made individuals like Kelsey and like your children, and I'm intimidated even to be here and just humbled by the opportunity. You and your families are true heroes of mine, and I know that you all know so much more about your individual kiddos than I ever will, but I'll speak broadly, of course, in terms of how I hope to help them. So I would love to see a show of hands of who is here. So let's see, if your child is maybe in that 0 to 5, birth to 5 years old, raise your hand. Okay, so I see you. Okay, what about elementary school age? Okay, and what about middle school or high school? Okay, and adults? Okay, awesome. So we kind of have a good mixture of everyone. I love it. So I'm going to start with just some nerdy information about music therapy in general, and then we'll get into some more of the fun stuff. So music therapy is a well-established professional health discipline that uses music as a therapeutic stimulus to achieve non-musical treatment goals. What that means in English is we're not trying to teach anybody music. We're just trying to utilize music and the principles of music to help with other goal areas, like the ones we'll be talking about today. So in the school settings, raise your hand if any of your kiddos receive music therapy in the school settings. Do any of them already receive music therapy? Awesome, I'm glad to hear that. So music therapy is recognized as a related service. That means according to IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, if they have an educational need for a related service, and music therapy being one of those, then you have the right to request an evaluation. So I certainly can give you more information about that if you're interested in seeing if you can get music therapy services in schools. I'll open up to questions about that here in a second. So in the same way that you could request an OT or a PT evaluation, you have the right to request a music therapy evaluation. And typically the qualifiers for that are, one, if they're not making progress on their existing IEP goals. So if they have their education plan in place and maybe they're struggling in some different areas. So that'd be the number one thing we have to look for. And then number 2 would be, is music a motivator for them? Now for most kiddos, and I use the word kiddos meaning your kiddos, I realize the age range, even adults, they're still your kiddos, right? And so most kiddos are motivated by music to some degree, but there can kind of be these extremes of maybe someone that says like, no, I really don't like music, that's aversive to me, maybe it's too loud, those sorts of things. There might also be someone who loves music so much that it's not effective. So maybe they have a song that they're always singing in their head, and then I come in and they're like, I don't like the song you're singing, that's not the song that I'm singing. And there's things we can do, obviously, to work with, trying to kind of find out what works for them, but there obviously are going to be students there that music therapy is not effective for them. Do you have any questions about accessing music therapy in schools? I can speak primarily to the United States, of course, but does anybody have any questions about accessing those services? Okay, cool. And of course, research supports those connections between speech and singing, rhythm and motor behavior, memory for academic material, whether it's shapes, numbers, colors, letters, more skills that are more functional for older students than adults, like safety, transportation, these sorts of things. And then music is processed by different areas of the brain than speech and language. So let's say speech is in this hemisphere. This is where we're addressing speech. Music can engage both hemispheres. So that's why a lot of times you'll see kids who maybe can sing even though they have difficulty speaking. So music can help bridge that gap between language, because they might be able to sing, and then we can generalize that skill into language. So basically, using music, whether singing, using rhythm or instrument play, the music therapist can motivate, cue, and reinforce the responses. Those might be ways we use music in a variety of areas. Okay, so we're about to get into some strategies you can use at home. It'll be a little more fun. But I have to say in the beginning that, of course, using these strategies at home, obviously you won't call it music therapy, but they're just music strategies. And the best care and response you're going to get, as you all know, each of your kiddos, even though they can be defined under the 15 DUPE Q umbrella, are so unique in their responses and their needs and where they're at developmentally. And so the best care you're going to get as far as music therapy is concerned is if you have a treatment plan that's designed to meet their specific needs. I'm also going to talk about using music for motor skills and using music for speech. And as a PT or OT or a speech therapist would appreciate me saying, I do not have my doctorate in physical therapy. And so they are going to be more informed on what specific stretches, what specific skills you're going to need to develop in their treatment plan. But what I can do is say, okay, here are some instruments that you could use if you're working on pincer grasp, if you're working on this or that. Here's ways to incorporate music therapy into maybe some of the things you're already doing. And if you need help maybe finding a music therapist in your area, you can also shoot me an email, and I'd love to kind of help get you connected. Okay, so let's talk about communication. Okay, so we can most effectively teach expressive communication, speech, right, if there's this foundation of receptive. So they have to understand what we're saying first before we can expect them to say anything back. But as you know, many of your children, you're like, I know they understand what I'm saying, even though they're not verbalizing back to me that they know it, right? So they've got that comprehension piece. So the way that we could work on that comprehension and making sure they're understanding what we're saying is just following basic motor skills. So for instance, if I say to clap, then they clap. So they're understanding that expectation. And so once we've built that in, okay, once you know how to, if I clap, you clap, then you're going to be able to understand the skill of when I say da, 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 you say da, da, da. So this is kind of a foundational skill. And so many of your children might already have this down, but we're going to kind of start from the beginning, and I'll share some examples for littler ones as well as for your older children as well. Oops. Okay, my goal here is to give you songs that you either already know or that I think you could pick up on really quickly so that you can use them at home without too much extra work, because none of you needs any more work on your plate, right? So, if you're happy and you know it. So we could say, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, then your face. Good clapping. I like the way you're clapping, super duper. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Okay, and so maybe when you're teaching that song, yay! So the first few times you're teaching it right, you may have to sing this 100 times before they're really getting the instruction. I love it. And so in the beginning, you're just teaching. You're going to sing. You're going to model the whole time clapping your hands. As you're working on understanding the skill of, okay, are they just clapping because they see me clapping, or do they understand the phrase? Now I'm going to take the model out. I'm not going to clap my hands. I'm just going to say, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Okay, and then I want to see, are they clapping their hands even when I'm not giving that model? Are they understanding the instruction? And you don't have to just do the standard, clap your hands, stomp your feet, pat your knees. Come up with any direction you want to. It could be a functional direction that you're working on. What would be something you might be trying to teach them? If you're happy and you know it. Do you have one? Yes. Pick it up. Okay, right? If you're a helper and you know it, pick it up, right? So just you can make these little changes and you're going to show them. So you can use these familiar songs that they know as a cue for all kinds of different things. And so you're doing what we call fading when you're like, okay, I'm going to show them the model. And again, you may teach them 50 times with a model before they're ready for you to take that example out. But that's how you can kind of continue. And maybe you just see, if you're happy and you know it, maybe they'll even say, clap, So you're going to be able to work on so many skills. So there's another song. I keep wanting to click on my computer, and it's not on my computer, called Shake Your Sillies Out. It's a Rafi song, so you can look it up on iTunes or find it on YouTube. He goes, I'm gonna shake, shake, shake my sillies out, shake, shake, shake my sillies out, shake, shake, shake my sillies out, and wiggle my worries away. Now, you might, in this room, there may be different opinions on the matter of, do I want them, if they have a self-stim behavior, do I want them to continue that behavior or do I want them to not? But obviously, if your goal is to, maybe this is something they're already doing and you're not wanting it, you could do any motion. I'm gonna jump, 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 my jumpies out, and you modern jumping. But if you're looking for an appropriate way for them to express, maybe their own self-stim behaviors, that might be another way too, to give them an appropriate opportunity to, with singing and movement, because that's appropriate, right, when kids move and sing. So those would be an example. And then those of you with older students or adults, you can even do some cha-cha slide, right? So you think about something where slide to the left, slide to the right. And this is something that's also going to be socially appropriate because their peers are doing it. I know we have programs in Texas, and I don't know about everywhere else, where we have, there's a lot of encouragement of the students to participate in dances, or maybe they have a special needs dance. This is a great way to get a peer involved, that they can be doing this together, and they can, dance and music are just a cultural, it kind of unites us, right? It's like we all get into this room and we all hear the cha-cha slide at a wedding or whatever, and we know what to do. And so that's a great way to bring community in to do something like that. Or, if you want to do a little whip nay-nay, right? So it depends on where they're at developmentally. But any song that has directions that's familiar to you, you can use to kind of get that same concept. The idea is the music is a motivator to recognize a direction and then follow through with the behavior. Okay, so now that we understand imitation, we're going to work on the imitation of the most basic unit of sound, or a phoneme. And so this, I'm going to share with you an easy-to-learn song that both practices that initial vocalization, so just those sounds, as well as then that'll build to a word, and eventually to word identification. Okay, so on here, I have all kinds of stuff. I use a cookie sheet with magnets. You don't need any of this. You could just have a toy apple. You could just have a foam bath letter, or magnets, ABC magnets from the dollar store. But I'll just put it all on there. So apple, apple, apple. Now I've just said the phrase 100 times, but it's not obnoxious, right? I'm not saying and the children are losing their minds and you're losing your mind. Apple starts with the letter A. So you can use this to teach letters, but you totally don't even have to. You can just sing the song and focus on that The other thing to note is that you can do it with things that are functional for you. So if your child, for younger ones, okay, it may be apple would be good, maybe ball. If they have a favorite, if they have a teddy bear, you could say bear, right? I want you to use something that's actually going to help them in their life, right? So if they have a favorite bear and they want to know, how do I request for this? If they have a favorite chewy, whatever it is, if there's a way where we could give them that language to express what they need. For older students who are in school, it might be backpack, backpack. So it's short, it's repetitive, and so they're getting lots of that initial but then they're also getting the full word backpack. So use this functionally. One of the coolest thing about this marriage of families and therapists is I can't be there as much as you're going to be there. And so the fact that you can be there of the normal parts of their routine, and especially in the summer when maybe they're home more, and you're going through all throughout the day, you can be using this to help teach them words that are going to be helpful for them. cereal, right? So if you're trying to get them to learn words in the morning, bath time, whatever it is, then you can kind of just be giving them that repetitive. You can also pair the song with a communication device. So and then you can maybe hand over hand help them touch alligator if they're using that or that sort of thing. So whatever words you're working on. Other songs for just common words to add to their vocabulary that you probably already know. I have a lot of fun stuff up here. He says, I want to see it all. Would be like the wheels on the bus. So, the school bus is pulling up in the morning, and we sing, the wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round. You might have a toy bus. You might be doing the motions, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round all through the town. So maybe you're singing this every morning when the bus comes. And that is not only going to help teach them the word bus, right, because they're making this association, but it also will probably help with their routine, right? I start learning, when I hear the wheels on the bus, it means there's probably a bus coming. And they're, without explaining, you don't even have to explain to them that, right? They're just going to learn from that cue that's coming. So you can also use these songs to cue parts of their routine. Another one that many of you know, I like to eat apples and bananas, okay? But you can change this to any food or drink, right? So again, in the morning, maybe they're having an apple and a banana, right? And so you might sing that. Maybe they want to request their milk cup if they're younger. So I like to drink milk, or whatever it is. Same thing. You could be singing it at that time in their routine when they might need it. So use things that are going to be functional for you and for your family that are going to help them to be, your kiddos to be most successful. So change that to whatever you need. Another one is Old MacDonald, right? So again, this might be more for younger or school age that are working on animals. You can be doing this when you're driving down the road and you see animals, and all of a sudden you're singing, Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. I have all these like little finger puppets. We have all the cool toys, you know what I mean? And on that farm he had a, what is it? It's a chicken or a hen. I'll accept either answer. With a bok here and a bok there. So again, these are things that just as you're going along your day, when you see these things, you can sing about it. Maybe you have a dog, it's like you could sing about your dog. You can sing about a zoo animal. So if you have fun little objects or visuals, that's obviously going to provide an extra cue. But again, just use it as you're going along your day when you see something, when you have that's another one. And then I kind of have a thing about age-appropriate music for older kids, even when they're developmentally maybe at a younger age. I think sometimes the reason their favorite songs stay the same as earlier is because we know that was their favorite. We know that they've always loved Wheels on the Bus, and I have no issues with this in general. But because their favorite song has always been Wheels on the Bus, we just keep singing it for them. Instead of okay, what if I were to try to introduce some different stuff? And you might be surprised if there's songs that you listen to in the car that are your preferred music. If you have adult children, you might find, I didn't even realize they liked that song. But you might try playing those kinds of songs for them. They might actually just enjoy what you're listening to. But this song is a visual aid I designed, but you could use any pictures, stock photos, whatever it is, of different transportation. This one teaches transportation, and it's To Drive My Car by the Beatles. Baby, you can drive my car. Anybody know it? Doesn't matter where you are. Baby, you can drive my car. Maybe I'll come to. Beep, 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 yeah. Baby, you can ride the bus. Know your route, don't be anxious. Baby, you could ride the bus. Maybe I'll come too. And if you email me, I'm happy to send you a copy of this so you have it. Ride the plane, the train, boat. So this is a way to teach transportation that, again, is maybe a little more appropriate for the older kids. And then this is an original song I wrote called In My Town that deals with places. These are the places in my town where the things I need daily can be found. Going shopping, sending letters, learning something new. These are the places I go to. The post office, the post office. So maybe you give them the picture and they can match. I can mail a letter at the post office. And then it goes through, and again, if you email me for this, I'll send it to you, and I'll send you a little voice recording too, so you can get the melody. The bank, the grocery store, restaurant, school, church, doctor's office, the gym, and then home. Finally home, I can rest and relax at my home. So just those sorts of things for those older students or adults where you're wanting to just kind of help them to be successful and to understand maybe their community and places in their community as they're growing more independent. Okay, so then another critical area of communication, which probably most often leads to behavior, is the ability to express what they want, right, or what they need. And so you might hear it called a request. Oh, there's my little pictures. Sorry, I'm behind. Do you want me to go back so you guys can write? Do you need me to write it down? I'll send you the PowerPoint if you email me. So it would be that request, or you might hear it called a mand. And so a melody for a request could be as simple as, I want a snack, or I want a cookie, I want milk, please. So that's just, I'm just making up notes, right? It could be like, I guess that's more like Frere Jacques, da-da-da-da, right? So you could fill it to anything. I want headphones, whatever it is that they might need, if you can kind of cue that. And then maybe in a moment of frustration for them where you know they're trying to express a want and you don't know, once you've practiced this a lot and once you've helped teach them, then maybe you could even sing, I want, and maybe that's enough to cue them to communicate with you, or even to calm them down enough to communicate with you. So that's another easy way when there's a request, is just to use a simple repeated phrase, and you can use it for food, you can use it for a sensory item, you can use it for various things, just to give them that cue and help them to express what they want. And then one of the most meaningful words we can teach our kids is their name, and the names of their friends, the names of you, other family members, and familiar faces. And as you know, when we teach them their name, it gives them a line of defense, right? So calling their name may be the most effective way to keep them from running into the street or running up the stairs of the hotel, right? And then it gives them distinction, right? When you call their name, you're talking to them and no one else. And most importantly, it gives them dignity. So they're not defined by their diagnosis, they're not defined by their functioning, but they're a unique individual with inherent value. So a name is just really a precious thing to teach. And then, of course, learning the names of those they love also creates a bond in the relationship. So like we've been saying, repetition. So that's going to be your best tool for memorization. And then there's also what we call teach then test. So I'm going to, like I was talking with, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. I'm teaching it, and then I'm testing. Okay, did they get it? Okay, I'm going to keep teaching it. And of course that fosters learning and then the likelihood of a correct response. And then you have more opportunities to reinforce their success. Yay, you did it! We got lots of excitement when our little friends were clapping their hands. So this is my mirror. If you can see it, it's been like licked and loved. I need obviously some sanitation to happen here. And so this is a simple little song you could sing. I bet I have a slide for it. There we go. Oh, that's the I want. Sorry. Okay, my name. So, what's your name? Tell me one of your beautiful children's names. Eden? Evie? Ooh, that's pretty. What's your name? It's Evie. What's your name? It's Evie. Starts with an E. What's your name? It's Evie. And again, giving eye contact if you can to get that little sweet face in yours of just teaching them. A mirror, again, that's a fun way. If they're really little and you're doing tummy time, you can even do it so that they can see their face when you're doing it. If they're older, you can hold it up for them or have them hold up. They may be like, hey, good looking, you know. But as you're singing, so they're getting that association of like, this is me and my name's Evie. So as they're looking, so a mirror is another way to engage them as you're singing it. So I like it. So anyways, we can use their name. We'll also talk later when we talk about behaviors as far as calming and how we can be calm them. And singing their name is just a really neat way to help with calming too. I'll get ahead of the slides one day. All right, let's talk about motor skills. So again, as I shared, obviously your physical therapist, your doctor, an occupational therapist are going to know what stretches are going to help with fine motor skills as far as what toning they need, what sort of motor skills you're going to work on and what those stretches look like. And my recommendation is just, if you're doing this exercise, try incorporating an instrument that it could be that motivator or that cue. So for instance, if you're working on grasp, they can be holding a shaker, right? So I'm grasping. They also make just natural wood shakers, and I love that for some of the older kids, that they're still sanitizable and natural. And so it's maybe just a little more age appropriate for them than like a little pink one. A couple of different mallets, so that's going to be a different grip. They have ones like these that are made for littler fingers, and they're also great for slightly older ones that aren't quite there yet with the motor skill, because it's a little bit fatter of a mallet. It's going to be easier to grip. And then I also have more like this. I didn't have one at home with a little foam top on it. I have them at work, but I didn't grab it in time. So that they can use. So again, it's just all different kinds of grips. So if you see, oh, we're working on this, I can work on this and play, and then it's more fun than just a repeated motion in general. There's also items like this, and I get almost all of my instruments from West Music. You can order it online, but you can also find them on West Music and see if it's cheaper on Amazon or whatever. But these ones are good because you can do fingers, or if they have tiny hands, right, they can get their whole hand in. So just be looking as you see all these little fun instruments. Notice the different ways you can hold them and use them to make these grasps and these stretches a little more fun. Okay, so these ones are cool for all kids, but I especially think they're awesome for like our middle school and high school and adults because they are light up drumsticks. Okay, so you get to hold them, and again, you got to decide what you want them to bang it on. That's acceptable, but you can play them on the floor if you have like a rug on a carpet, they could play it on the wood floor if you don't mind. But they light up, so it's not only are you getting that auditory stimulus, so they're like, ooh, this is fun because it sounds cool and I'm banging a drum, right? But also I'm getting this visual stimulus of color. Obviously want to be sensitive to my friends that flashing light can be a trigger for them, so obviously knowing your own kiddo and whether that's going to be appropriate for them or not. But that's another engaging where they're getting that visual stimuli as well, and that reinforcement of, ooh, when I hit something, it lights up. Those are called fire sticks, I believe. But if you just Google light up drumsticks, you'll find them. Okay, and then for a guitar pick, that's great for a pincer. So if you were to get just a little guitar pick, they also have adapted guitar picks that are more like this size instead of tiny size that those little fingers can hold on to, so they can practice that pincer grasp. For, say, if they need to work on rolling of the wrist, we've got a kabasa, is what this is called. So you can see, I've got this stretching action. These are also great for sensory input. You can roll it on their arm, you can roll it on their leg, you can roll it on their shoulder, and you can use it to learn body parts too. I do this to La Cucaracha. Play the cabasa, la 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 la. Okay, we gotta play it on your shoulder. Okay, and not only, again, are they getting the sensory input, and if I'm teaching them and they're not ready to do this by themselves, you hold that and you roll that on their shoulder. And for many of them, it will be awesome, and for many of them, they'll be like, I don't like that, that's aversive for me, but thanks anyways, But if they do like that deep input, those beads give a lot of good sensory. Play it on your leg, and then maybe you're teaching them by modeling, and then maybe as they grow and develop and they start getting that comprehension piece, they might be able to play on their leg or point to their leg for you to play. So that's a little, not only the sensory input, but also just a different action for your hands. And then for, maybe if we're working on any kind of wrist working, we've got, different kinds of maracas. For hand strength, you've got a hand drum. Of course, that one has mallets with it, but any drum that they're playing with, it sounds terrible on podium, sorry, but they're playing with their hands, right? So if you're giving them something fun to do with their hands, that's building that strength there as well. And then there's this skill, which is also a cognitive skill, of passing from hand to hand. So some of you might see some of these goals of just the ability to cross midline to pass from a hand to a hand. So you could do a passing game and with that. So those are some of those little fine motor things that you can just look creatively for instruments and think, okay, how can I work on these stretches that I'm getting in OT and PT, but use something fun to kind of get that engagement up. Okay, and then for oops, that's not right. For the gross motor, we have reaching and stretching with the mallet or hand drum. I'm sorry, you have to ignore my slide. I copied the wrong thing. But so I can hold a little drum out. So pretend that I'm holding this, or that mom is holding this, and I'm the kid. So I'm reaching to play it. So if I'm working on, maybe we got some rigidity or something, or I'm needing to work on some of that strength in my arm, I could reach to play. If you're working on crossing midline, you could hold the drum over here so that they're having to cross body to play it. You can place it wherever it is that you need to work on, and so they have to play in different ways. You can also increase strength in general. That floor tom, where it says hand strength, that's called a floor tom. They have all kinds of hand drums, so a djembe, anything that you can set on the ground and not have to hold up, you can work on strength. So you can work on your hand strength. You also can put it, if they're sitting and you're working on leg strength, you can actually put, I'll just speak loud. If it's here and I'm seating, I can actually try to lift my leg and hit it with the heel. These drums, this is a Remo drum. Again, you can find it at West Music, and they're very durable. I mean, they can kick it and it can handle it. So that's another way, or if you're working on, depending on what muscles, they can also sit and play with the bottom of their foot. I mean, the sky's the limit. Or maybe if they have limited mobility with their arms, maybe it gives them an opportunity to participate in a different way as well. As far as walking goes, a music therapist might work with providing a steady beat. Am I doing okay on time? Might work on providing a steady beat for them while they're walking. So I might do it like this. We are walking one at a time. We are walking left and right. We are walking, yes we are. Ready, set, go. And so I'm playing this first, and they're entraining the beat. It's just a natural process that happens with your brain where you kind of hear the beat, and then all of a sudden like our toes are tapping, right? And so that's called entrainment, when it's connecting, kind of your brain is connecting with the beat. And then once they've got that, then maybe we need support or whatever. We are walking left to right. And you can change the tempo, you can change the speed based on where they're at. But that's another one to help give that more patterned walking if they're, as they're either learning to walk or maybe regulate the pace they're using. And again, when we're talking about tone for the little ones or even older ones, if we're working on core tone, tummy time is a great way to do that. So if you can have an instrument, maybe they're laying on flat on their belly and playing, and so they're basically doing a crunch almost, right? To be able to reach up and play. So if you could put an instrument on the floor where they're having to kind of prop their body up to play, it could be reinforcing enough that it's worth it to them to do the exercise. Okay, and then let's talk behaviors. So as communication is developing, and other areas like their emotional and cognitive needs, right? So we're still learning how to express ourselves. We're still learning how to say what we need and we want. And at the same time, we're like figuring out our emotions. And in all children, there's progression and regression that happens along the way as we're developing. It's this 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And as we're progressing in our communication, we might be regressing a little bit in emotional skills until we catch back up. So there's so much for them to manage. So as communication is developing, and then so is the kind of the cognitive processes and emotions, we see waves of behavior because we're seeing these kiddos seek to express themselves and to function in the midst of challenges, many of which are out of their control, right? And so it's trying to understand where they're at and what is an appropriate expectation for them. And I'll speak as a parent in general, although I know that you all have faced many challenges that I don't know and will never know. But one of the hardest parts about parenting in general can be the recognition of our own expectations and inhibitions and the role they play in our teaching and discipline. And so I'm going to give an instance with my 4-year-old when she was about 18 months old. And again, as far as we know, she's typically developing, but it's not a comparison of the unique needs of our children, but the parenting principle is the same. Because so many times it's not about their behavior, it's about our response as parents, right? So we're at Chick-fil-A, this may be a familiar scene, and it was time to leave the play place. Is anybody tracking with me? Yes, okay. And she was not going to have it. And for the first time, I experienced this full-on screaming, kicking meltdown in public, and I was mortified. And in my embarrassment, I was impatient and I was angry, and I raised my voice at her like that was going to fix it. I gave her like the meanest death stare, and it wasn't like the one that you muster. It's like the one where you can't get it off your face if you want to because you're just so frustrated. And I carried her kicking and screaming, and it was all I could do to just shove her into her car seat, and like hold her down with my elbow while I buckled it. And it was not my finest parenting moment. Mostly because, one, I had an unrealistic expectation, and two, because I let my embarrassment and selfishness carry me along this emotional roller coaster with her instead of remaining calm and constant. So she was not developmentally at a place where she could obey immediately, even though I wanted her to, and I had this expectation that she would. She just wasn't developmentally at the place that I was going to give a direction, and she was just going to immediately be able to respond. I know some of your children are maybe at that place as well. She needed processing time. I also should have given her some sort of prep, right? Like choosing one more thing before we go, or I'm putting 2 minutes on the timer, and then it's time to go. Again, just simple directions. And then after the timer or one more thing, I should have made a clear, calm statement of my expectation, like, okay, come on down, time to go. And if she escalated anyways, which still happens, right, I should have remained calm, gone down to her level physically. So like if she's here, I'm at her eye level, and stated the direction again. I know it's hard to leave, but it's time to go. And if she didn't follow the direction, I would then give her a choice. Okay, it's time to go, so that part's not a choice. You can walk to the car, or I can carry you. And if she still didn't want to leave, I would calmly carry her to the car, no matter how frustrated she was. And of course, another choice would be to remove her from the fun area, like take her to a bench at the Chick-fil-A, and then wait for her to obey. So she's not getting to do the fun thing, but I'm going to wait for her to make the choice to obey. So my favorite author, Paul Tripp, says in a book called Parenting, he says, it's the repeated cycle of little unplanned moments that is the soul-shaping workroom of parenting. And it really changed my perspective of behavior when I saw these moments as opportunities instead of frustrations. Because those moments to me were like, why are you not conforming to what I want you to do right now? Instead of, okay, this is an opportunity. So if we see these moments as opportunities to model patience for our children and to model grace and unconditional love, then it really turns our thinking around. And now that I have 2 kiddos, my 2 and 4-year-old, it's not uncommon to see me leaving Chick-fil-A carrying each child surfboard style under my arms. But I'm calm most of the time. I've given them reasonable expectations, and I've created a safe place for them to process their emotions. And these same principles have also changed my responses to behaviors in therapy. I'm much less reactive now, and I really seek to understand, okay, why is this the response? And then more importantly, maybe, what can I do differently? How can I give a better prep? What ways did I make the environment not conducive to them either understanding the direction or following the direction? So anyways, that's just kind of a little soapbox there about maybe the biggest impact for me in therapy and as a parent in behavior was really rethinking my expectation and how I keep doing that, setting them up. Here we go. Okay. So for any kind of just general behavior that you know that is going to occur, so maybe some trigger points of behaviors, you can repeat short melodies to organize and cue those behaviors. So I don't know if anybody is a Daniel Tiger fan in here, but, or maybe you're not a fan. Sorry. Just close your ears for a few minutes. So something wonderful that they do is they have a short repeated melody for various basically trigger points for either kids in this age or kids that are developmentally in these ages of here's some common maybe struggles. Any of these you can Google Daniel Tiger songs, or you could just, it's almost time to go, and you can hear like a YouTube video or whatever, you can listen to it. So one that could be effective is, it's almost time to go, so choose one more thing to do. And then once it's done, that was fun, but now it's done. What I'm not saying is it's going to be this miracle thing where like, oh, I did it and then it worked. Like I sang it one time and then they figured it out. This is it's the repetition. It's the repetition. And so as I'm doing this, even if they're not singing along with me, right, it's just, are they getting that understanding of like, okay, I know that it's almost time to go every time I hear this song. But again, that would have been a better thing for me to do at Chick-fil-A, would be to say like, okay, choose one more thing to do. So that's one that's good for transitions, for waiting. One of the things I sing, when you wait, you can play, sing, or imagine anything. And again, they may not fully understand all of that, but even if you sing that song every time that you need to wait, and then you initiate, like, here's a coloring book, or here's something that we can do together, again, it can help smooth that. We're going to experience a wait. This is a song we sing when we have to wait, and let's and change it. And then that song for Jaka, you can sing, we are waiting, yes, we are. Again, it's almost cueing them to, we're going to wait, and this is what it's going to be like, and here's something we can do instead. And then one for frustration. When you feel so mad that you want to roar, take a deep breath and count to 4. And again, maybe they're not singing the whole song with you, but if you could breathe together. And count to 4, and then count 1, 2, 3, 4. You're just giving them strategies, calming strategies or coping strategies in that moment, but you're doing it through song, which can be a little more palatable. Another song that they sing, give a squeeze nice and slow, and they kind of squeeze their own arms. They're giving themselves pressure. It's giving them like a self-coping strategy. Take a deep breath and let it go. Okay, so it's the same kind of thing where we're teaching deep breathing, we're teaching squeezes, and you can just pick maybe if there's a strategy that they use at school, if there's a strategy you use at home already, it doesn't have to be count to 4 or take a deep breath, whatever it is for them. If it's maybe I just need to like do 10 jumping jacks, whatever strategies you're using to calm down, if it's get a weighted blanket, use those strategies and kind of just change up the words a little bit. Again, the idea is that that we're taking these otherwise tense moments, right, that could be not only tense for them, but maybe start getting tense for us as they're getting frustrated. Okay, thank you. But it helps us to ask in a positive way instead of feeling like we have to repeat ourselves a million times. Like, okay, calm down. Okay, calm down. Okay, calm down. But I'm giving them a strategy to calm down. And again, it's sometimes a little more palatable to hear a song than to hear a repeated direction. And then when it's play-based, it's just more fun for everyone. Another thing you can do is like a stop-and-go freeze game, which is working on that impulse control of wait and stop. So you might play a song. It could be, Let It Go. It could be, Old Town Road, So depending on what their favorite song is, right, you can play the song and then pause the song. This is another game you can play while you're having to wait, right? So you play pause and stop and freeze. So then if you're playing this game and, freeze, play the song, freeze. You're making stopping fun. So then when you're in a dangerous situation and you're like, and they're running down the street, it's like, freeze. Sometimes that's going to trigger a more quick response than stop, because it's associated with the game, and it has this positive emotional association for them, like, oh, I love playing this freeze game. So they're like, so that's really going to connect more deeply in their brain when it's associated with something positive. Another thing with calming, just combine preferred music with their preferred sensory strategies. If they like deep squeezing, then sing a favorite song while squeezing them. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Whatever that song is. Again, if they're an older student or an adult, then you can sing whatever their preferred music might be. If they like a weighted blanket, put that weighted blanket on and add the music. And so that's just going to add an extra one. I'm almost done. And then that's also when I talked about saying their name. Sometimes just hearing a parent say their name, you don't need to have the most beautiful voice in the world. A mother and a father's voice to a child is the most calming voice, whether you believe that or not. And so if you can just sing their name, Evie, Evie, whatever their name is, that can also kind of bring a sense of calming. So hopefully these strategies just give you some tools at home that you can individualize for the needs of your own kiddos. And for further development with music therapy, talk to your school or find a music therapist near you. Please feel free to email me any questions, or if you want more information about any of the resources, or I can send you a quick little voice recording of some of the songs so that you have it. So.